Hogg has pledged to spend millions funding primary challenges to what he calls asleep-at-the-wheel Democrats.
Hassan Piker, who, to quote Politico, is driving a wedge in the Democratic Party.
An insurgency against centrist Democrats. One that is challenging party norms.
These races do seem representative of this real struggle the party is going through right now, post-2024.
And energizing young voters.
Abolish ICE, free Palestine, and tax the rich!
An insurgency that hopes to spark a revolution in the Democratic Party. It's No Kings Weekend, and tens of thousands of people, young and old, have descended on Midtown Manhattan.
Where do we think the front of this actually is?
Honestly, I don't believe in the Democrat Party at all. I think they're all feckless losers.
The Iran war has been raging for a month, and while everyone here is protesting President Trump, many are also frustrated with the Democratic Party.
I think the Democratic Party, because of its donor base, keeps trying to push its base towards the center, and nobody wants to be in the center right now.
Cynthia Nixon, who played Miranda in Sex and the City, ran for governor of New York as a progressive in 2018.
I've always identified as a Miranda.
Well, thank you.
What has, do you think, changed within the Democratic Party since you ran for governor?
I think not enough has changed within the Democratic Party. And I think the Democratic Party is a slow, lumbering giant, very slow to wake up.
No Kings! No Kings! No Cuomo! No Cuomo! No ICE! No ICE!
The election of Zoran Mamdani to Democratic Socialists, which is a dirty word for a lot of people. We've got more and more people like him running across the country.
At the heart of the insurgency is the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. The DSA is the largest socialist political organization in the country, and it's working to pull the Democratic Party to the left.
Senator Bernie Sanders.
Today, they are holding a rally here in the Bronx in support of their New York candidates.
Bernie, it is you. It's all of us together. The work that you did to elect Zoran as mayor will not only impact this city, it is reverberating all over the world.
You're a Democratic Socialist.
I am.
You've never run for office.
Daraliza Avila Chevalier is one of the candidates running for New York.
Folks need to be able to see themselves in the Democratic Party again. I, like them, have felt abandoned by the establishment. Instead of sending all our money onto these foreign wars, we need folks who are willing to reinvest that money into our communities, into our babies, making sure that we have universal childcare, free public education from cradle to college.
Hassan Piker has become a regular fixture at rallies for DSA and other left-wing candidates, many of whom are seeking to unseat Democratic incumbents.
Make some noise for Hassan Piker!
Woo! I have never seen a crop of talent as bold and as brave as the New York City DSA slate.
It's so funny because Daraliza was not there, but Claire was. They have this gigantic cutout of Daraliza. Like,
demanding a different politics, something not beholden to corporate or pro-Israel or imperialist interests.
Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed plans to rally with far-left anti-Israel streamer Hassan Piker.
If Hassan is far left, I wonder what they, I mean, they call me controversial streamer, right? Like they just like drop the ideological labels on me. Extreme left, far left, max left.
This is about being able to bring people back into our politics.
Look at Fox Business now. It's like slop tubers. I'm out of here. Carville's stunning warning over Hassan Piker. Are these AI? This seems like an AI thumbnail. It seems like an AI Zoran. The solution is worse than the problem, expert warns on Mamdani plan. Stir up the mob. So this is also, this is what the strategy is with centrist Democrats. Centrist Democrats go on these Fox far-right channels to pump up the name recognition of the left-wing candidates among Republicans, so that every Republican boomer will be able to tell you every left-wing candidate, but every like Democratic voter won't. That's the paradox we live in, right? Like Hassan Piker's name recognition with Republicans is going to be higher than it is with Democrats. And then when that's true, which is when there's a period of time while that's true, everybody will be like, look how unpopular Hassan is. Oh my God, Hassan is a net negative. Like they did the same thing with AOC. They tried to do the same thing with Zoran. But eventually, like information about these people starts trickling out to normal people and their approval rating starts to skyrocket, which is what we're seeing with Zoran, right? Zoran has managed to keep himself on social media, on places like TikTok, so that Fox News hasn't been able to define him. Far left candidates could, quote, completely hurt the Democrats in midterms. Only 9,000 views out of 20 million subscribers? 20 million subscribers, and you got 9K views? And then the top comment is bringing you a group of people who represent the establishment that brought you the status quo to tell you why you shouldn't want change. What happened to a big tent? Oh, I guess it's a big tent as long as you run the tent. That's exactly what I've always, like, chat, what have I gotten wrong? Jules, in our debate with Sam Cedar, did I tell him that the big tent, vote blue no matter who, only goes one way? You tell me. Tell me if I did. I would love some clips from that debate. There were two times I talked to Sam Cedar about exactly this. One was when I called in and I told him I was thinking about Bernie or bust in 2020. I ended up supporting Biden. I pulled basically in 2020, I was Hassan in 2024, which was I was very concerned about Biden the entire time, and then I supported Biden at the end. That's basically what Hassan did with Kamala Harris in 2024. But every single point I made about what was gonna happen came true. I have to give a mea culpa, folks. Oh, this was me saying that Elizabeth Warren sucks? Well, yeah, of course. I was saying Elizabeth Warren sucks ass. Yeah, that's 7 years ago. Yeah, people are still not caught up to that.
As Piker's influence has grown, so too has scrutiny of his political positions.
Hey, chat. Happy birthday, Hackstock. You old ass motherfucker.
9/11, dude. I'm saying it. Palestinians have a right to dignity, a right to emancipation, a right to live free lives, free from this occupation. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if rapes happen on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much.
Some view Piker and the wider DSA and left-wing movement as dangerous.
Hassan Piker.
I actually consider that clip to be worse. Like, obviously, you know, the point that he was making that somebody committing a rape would not make oppression justified. I still think that clip sucks. I still feel like that clip is actually the worse clip than the 9/11 clip to me. I mean, listen, I've got bad clips too, so who am I to judge? I'm just saying that for me, that clip bothers me because it accepts the premise about like the systematic rapes in the statement, which makes it really unhelpful. And I just don't. I hate that. Which, you know, it is what it is. You know, it's a clip. Every clip is out of context of what he was actually saying, which is them trying to say rapes don't justify genocide. Even if rapes occurred, it doesn't justify genocide. But still, I think that clip, like, it doesn't matter to me that rape occurred is just a terrible thing to say. Like, that sentence should never have come out of his mouth. And it is what it is. The same thing as what I said. Like, the same thing, like, when I was talking about the, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu denying Palestinian nationality. And I was like, that would be demonic. Well, you know, that was a dumb thing for me to say because I put it in a way that lets people clip you. And we're never going to be perfect, but
one of the most outspoken, toxic, anti-Semitic.
Who gives a fuck about the clip? One of the things about being a content creator is the things that affect me the most are not the enemy. It's the people on my side arguing badly. Those are the things that fuck me up the most. It's like, why do you care about the clip that we're showing on CNN documentary? That it's literally what we're watching as the clip is being played. Why do I care about the clip? The fuck are you saying? What? Why are you asking me that? You know the answer to that. Why are you asking me that? Are you trying to get banned? Like, what are you asking me that for? Do you like, are you done with the stream? Like, what are you saying?
Influencers in the world.
The DSA is an insane organization It is literally...
Only read the first 4 words of my comment, which was, who gives a fuck about the clip when there are thousands of hours of him fully explaining the position that never get clipped. If I wasn't having Ryan on in a little bit, I would end stream.
Rat poison anywhere outside of the most deep blue places in America.
Why do these people call themselves Democrats? Call yourself Democratic Socialists.
I mean, I think a lot of them do, right?
Good. But don't call yourself
Your
Democrat.
comment was a bad comment. It's a stupid comment. It's a dumb comment. Why do we care about clips? What do you live in clip culture? You've been here for 60 months plus. You don't understand why clips are important to streaming and the modern like political discourse? Because yeah, I have 9,000 hours of me talking about politics. But even people in Hassan's chat call me an anti-Semite off of a clip. What are you saying? The point I'm making is there will always be clips, which you obviously recognize when he said it's impossible to be perfect. Obviously, cannot be perfect. Obviously, we cannot be perfect. But when we're talking about specific arguments that are being made that are successful versus unsuccessful, we should recognize when we make an argument in such a poor way that it's damaging to the cause. And we should work to avoid those kind of clips. The reason why we point out bad clips is so that we don't say those things again. And yes, the fact that we only said it once is a mitigating factor. That is, there's always going to be times where we fuck up. I want to create a culture. I want to create an anti-clipping culture as far as canceling people, because I think that's what people do to undermine the communities that we build, right? Like, I want you guys to not abandon me or Hassan because of one bad clip. I want you guys to be more robust. But people who don't care about us or don't know who we are, they're going to encounter clips. So we need to make sure that we're on our game. And when we have a bad clip or a bad argument, that we clean ourselves up and we understand, why did I make that mistake? Why did I say that thing? What can I do in the future to avoid having a bad clip? Because you could simultaneously understand that clips don't represent a person completely, while also understanding that a bad clip can harm our cause and our credibility. It's a dialectic of, we understand that we're never ever gonna live in a world where we never have a bad clip, but at the same time we could also understand that bad clips are bad and we could work against them, and we could try to clean up our arguments to be better. When I said that clip sucks, it's not an attack on Hassan. It's the same way that he says my clip sucks. Like, we all understand that clip is not a good clip. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, the messaging, like, we have to understand. So why is that clip problematic, and how can we avoid making a similar mistake? Because when you talk about sexual violence, it is a highly emotionally fraught subject. And that's why the fascists use it to manipulate people. So you should never, ever downplay sexual violence, even in a situation where it's being manipulated, like it's being used to try to justify genocide. You should still avoid any language that could be seen as you downplaying sexual violence. That's the thing that you learn from that clip, is that the problem with the clip is that he said he didn't care about a sexual crime. Never say that. And that is why the clip is bad. So instead of just like putting your head down and go, oh, there's going to be some clips sometimes because your ego can't handle that you made a mistake, look at the clip and go, okay, I wasn't saying that rapes are unimportant. I didn't mean it that way, but it came across that way, which is why our enemy is using it, because they understand that sexual violence is a fraught subject. So when discussing this specific fascist lie and propaganda point, I need to not downplay sexual violence, but instead focus the topic of conversation back onto the genocide and how the crimes of individuals should be punished, but they don't justify the killing of an unrelated child, right? It's about improving and learning to be better, because the worst thing you can do as a content creator, again, I'm in 9,700 hours streaming, I think I know a little bit about it, okay, is you could be right, but optically off. Happens all the time. It happens to be every day. I say something correct, but optically it sucks. Who cares? We're trying to improve ourselves. So can you hold this idea? Can you hold these two ideas in your head? One, we should try to avoid bad clips and learn from them when they happen. And two, the communities of support, you guys should be resistant to clip culture. You guys should know better. You should be in the trenches fighting against people calling him bigoted or me bigoted or you know, like, I need you guys to be resistant to clip culture while at the same time understanding that we live in it. That's what makes you guys a worthwhile audience, as opposed to a mercurial, dangerous audience that is unorganized and is ready to switch up on people the moment an enemy finds a clip out of context to make you swip up. You know what I mean? I need you to be resistant to that culture while at the same time understanding you live in it. That makes sense? And like understanding that we live in clip culture. So what does that mean? We need counter clips. We need people when a bad clip is up, we need you there with a counter clip. We need you there standing for what Hassan and I actually believe. Instead of putting your head down and saying that clip isn't fair, counter clip, play the game the correct way. That's what I'm calling for. That's what's frustrating to me, is that I feel like you should know that, Always Wrecked. Like, you've been here a long time. Why are you putting your head in the sand as like thinking that bad clips don't matter? You've literally seen me get deplatformed and Hassan get deplatformed for a bad clip. We already did that countless times, which is why I was asking why you were hashing it out back again. The better response is to move past it already. He's already apologized profusely. I never said just move on and never address. Stop misrepresenting me. See, this is why you couldn't be a streamer, because I'm giving you moderate pushback on the merits of the issue and you're crashing out. This is why some people are on this side of the camera and some people are watching, because you can't handle the moderate pushback, which, by the way, is very necessary, which is, bro, you don't know what you're talking about with strategy. What are you talking about? How dare you? What are you saying? What are you doing?
But others see.
We should make a site somewhere where we have a clip versus counter clip so people could easily reference it. Like if I saw someone pushing the Hassan clip, I would have no idea where to get a counter clip. Now you're talking. Now you're talking. That is the type of chatter that I want, which is, don't argue with me about the value of clips. What the fuck's wrong with you? Say, hey, Mike, how about we get a clearinghouse of counter clips? Now you're talking. Now you're cooking with gas.
The campaign as a reckoning for a party out of step with its voters.
There's the debate about what voters want and what makes a candidate. The battle for the future of the Democratic Party is not going to play out like it used to.
This is why you will never be anywhere near as big as the sun. Flipping shows you the issue we currently have with our media, not with what people actually say. What are you trying to say? Are you trying to get a timeout? What was that statement? That doesn't really make sense. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
I'm hitting the campaign trail.
Oh, Mike, what about this? It requires a login. Mike, can you ban that chatter? No. Just because the chatter was wrong and then felt embarrassed and then felt like I wasn't interpreting their thing, but I was. And then, you know, we had a conflict. It's not that big a deal. They've been here a long time. We're allowed to disagree. I can feel like they're very wrong. It's not that big a deal. I'm not that fragile. I get why they're frustrated. They're frustrated because they think that I'm like criticizing Hassan and airing the clip and saying that it's important. And they don't want it to be important, so they're frustrated. But it is. That's why it's on CNN. Because even Donnie thinks that it's such a bad clip that it did reputational damage to Hassan. So I'm talking about what do we do on our side of the table to try to mitigate that. And the chatter just doesn't want it to be real, which I understand that energy. I wish my bad clips weren't real too.
Talking to candidates.
Let's go knock some doors and let's win.
And those working behind the scenes, following the fight for the future of the Democratic Party.
What do we do?
Heavily armed SWAT teams, armored vehicles surrounding Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School.
A deadly school shooting in South Florida.
The shooter walked down the hallway. I heard a young man crying for his mother.
After 17 people were killed in a shooting at his high school in Parkland, Florida.
People are going to keep saying it's never going to happen to me. But when you don't take action, things like this eventually will happen.
David Hogg dedicated his life to political activism.
We will save lives.
In February of last year,
how are we doing, fellow Democrats?
He became co-chair of the DNC and led an effort to unseat Democrats in primary elections who he said were asleep at the wheel.
Did he even do it? Like we've seen this multiple times, but did he actually even do it? Like, who are the people that David Hogg primaried? I thought he just got owned and then didn't do it. So who did he actually primary?
We are here to find the most effective young people in our country, truly generational leaders.
He helped primary Al Green with a crypto bro. Yeah, the one guy he got he removed was like one of the more progressive pro-Palestine members with a guy to his right. Congratulations, David Hogg.
Meet the moment right now.
It's pretty unusual for a top member of Democratic leadership to openly plot to kick incumbents out of office. And yet, that's what my guest today is doing.
The move was not well received by party leaders and party elders.
To go out and raise money to defeat members of the same party. I think that's a jackassery of the highest level.
After a few months, Hogg resigned from the DNC, but he's continued fighting for generational change.
You found me in my native habitat.
I want to introduce David Hogg, who has been working to engage younger voters.
I'm here today because I want to feel hope in politics again.
Hogg is using his Leaders We Deserve to support young candidates who refuse to accept dark special interest money.
Maybe the reason young people are not huge fans of Democrats or politics in general is because politics doesn't give a shit about them. You guys ready to change that?
Yes!
Why was there a need for what you're doing within the Democratic Party infrastructure?
Have you seen the Democrats? I mean, if you look at Congress, I think it kind of speaks for itself. We have a government that is dominated and focused on people that are legislating that are not going to see the effects of many of the policies that they're passing. The reality is, we cannot continue to sell democracy to a generation that the system that we call democracy is not for. And I think New York City is actually one of the first places we did that. We were Zoran's largest funder in his primary. We spent $300,000 supporting him.
Today, he's campaigning in Brooklyn with Claire Valdez, a Democrat primary candidate in New York's 7th District.
I'm Claire Valdez, and I approve this message because this campaign is about you, not me.
But can I talk about you?
Like Mamdani, Valdez is a Democratic socialist.
The sort of older generation that is afraid of the word socialist, that's not sticking with young people, right?
It's true, and we see after poll that democratic socialism is becoming more popular, kind of in every age group, but especially with young voters. And I think it's precisely because, like me, so many people have worked low-wage jobs, felt like they had no career path, felt really locked out of home ownership and what we've, traditionally thought of as the American dream. And we know that the system is the problem.
Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani will be elected.
I mean, and there you go, chat. Like, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Claire is exactly, that's how you explain it. It's like people are rejecting the system because they're denied the paths to social mobility, to security, to a good life. If the system is not giving even talented and ambitious and intelligent and hardworking people a path to a good life, then the system fails. And it's not just the personal foibles of the individual. It is a systemic failure.
The next mayor of New York, New York.
It's impossible not to feel a sense of hope for a better tomorrow.
Mamdani's historic win and success with an openly democratic socialist platform shocked many within the Democratic Party.
I no longer have to prove that this kind of politics works. I can just point the Zoran.
One communist on the faculty of one university is one communist too many.
Communism and socialism have long been bad words in American politics. Dating back to the McCarthy hearings and the Cold War, America stood for capitalism.
They use the word social democrat because it sounds so nice, but it's really communism you're talking about.
But that is changing.
You understand, I think rightly, this is social democracy. This is not gulag socialism. This is not the Soviet Union socialism.
Socialism, on the other hand, up like a rocket. Look at this.
By the way, gulags are not something that were invented by socialists. Gulags happened from the czars. The authoritarian political prisons were invented by the capitalists and the monarchists. That's what's so funny about these arguments and these, you know what I mean? Like, what's so funny about them is like, you say gulag socialism, but the gulag itself is not socialist. It was in the service of capital.
And 3 Democrats have a favorable view of socialism.
Capitalism is even less popular among young people.
If politicians want to know how to get elected, it is not complicated. Do your job and represent the people, not the special interests buying out our election. What I think a lot about is the fact that if we do not start making our political system work for people that feel like they are living in a broken promise, where they've done as a generation everything we've been told on average, right? We've gone to college at some of the highest rates of anybody of any generation in American history. Contrary to popular belief, we've actually voted at the highest rates of any generational cohort at our age in American history, consistently.
Often when belief in the system collapses, civil unrest and violence follow.
The CEO of United Healthcare was murdered this morning.
Some young Americans celebrated the murder of healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
Unfortunately, I don't think that we really lost that great of a member of our society.
How do you think Brian Thompson's family feels when they hear that?
Well,
okay, listen, chat. Can we get some peepo smiles in the chat if you are concerned about violent rhetoric and you just want everyone to be happy? You know, like, let's be concerned about violent rhetoric and we just want everyone to live in peace. Okay? Like, that's all we want, right? Now, I understand where this woman is coming from, right? All the invisible murders of people who are denied health care by United Healthcare. Think about the literal thousands of families right now weeping tears of fear and frustration and humiliation that they're not able to afford the health care that a family member needs because they've got a United Healthcare denial sitting in their mailbox, right? A lot of people are suffering what we call social murder, where the conditions of society are set up and it leads to predictable, and this is the more important, avoidable death. If our healthcare system was different, a lot less people would die because our healthcare system is not set up to maximize the health of Americans. Our healthcare system is set up to maximize the profits of the shareholders of the hospital systems and of the insurance companies. And so, you know, the gap between a healthcare system that was focused on human health versus a healthcare system focused on shareholder profit, those are the social murders. And every single one of them is an intentional killing. First degree, premeditated murder. So he was guilty of thousands of premeditated murders. So from that perspective, you could understand why Luigi Mangione did what he did. Now, I'm against that. I believe in due process of law. I don't believe in vigilantism, right? I don't believe in what the anarchists call propaganda of the deed. Allegedly. Sorry, Chad. I want to be sued by Luigi for making a defamatory statement of fact. I don't know. He's accused, allegedly, of being the murderer. I understand that there's a lot of question about the evidence, about the chain of custody of the evidence. I mean, he was arrested, you know, hundreds of miles away in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So I don't know if he was even in the city when the murder happened. Okay. But leaving that aside for a question, let's just assume for the sake of argument that he's a suspect. A health insurance CEO is a mass murderer. That's what they get paid for. And so in that context, sometimes people are going to crack. You know, I'm honestly surprised it doesn't happen more, which is why I want a different society. I want Medicare for all so that people like those health insurance CEOs so they can be safe.
Well, obviously, I'm not going to try to say something insensitive about his children, but I do want to kind of remind the people that he was also denying life-saving care to hundreds, if not thousands of families. How do you think their families feel when their loved ones are lost?
How do you feel about that? And clearly, as somebody who has survived gun violence in this country.
I'll tell you, it is the thing that keeps me up more than anything. And it's not just like that specific instance. There is a deep frustration with
what keeps you up at night is Luigi Mangione. How about the thousands of kids who die from accidental guns and intentional violence? How about anything else than that?
Our political system is not working for the people who, if we do not start to make it work, people are going to find somebody who promises to do that, even if it's without.
We need to fight
True.
against a system designed to keep us separated, divided, marginalized, and oppressed.
There is clearly an appetite for change, but Democrats are divided on just how
All right, listen. I personally like Shoycott, but god damn was that race terrible. What a terrible choice. God damn was that choice terrible. He couldn't find any district that wasn't Nancy Pelosi's district. What a terrible district to choose. What a horrible district to choose.
Hope that change should be.
We say no more to the Democratic collaborators too.
I thought the big takeaway in 2024.
This is a conversation that I've had with a number of people. And there is a specific Democratic Socialist candidate that I'm thinking about right now that I will save for after their primary. But the most important thing, that is the most underestimated thing, is tactical and strategic insight. Everything else flows from that. The reason why New York City DSA is so good is because they actually have tactical and strategic insight. I think they're slightly too conservative in their choices, but that is a minor quibble, okay? Whereas almost everyone else is very bad at these things. And for me, the seat that you choose to run in is the most important thing because you can't change it. Everything else flows from that. And when you pick a bad seat because of pressures for people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, that fucks you over. And you go from a candidate who's very talented, who has the ability to win, and you make them a loser because they chose the wrong district. The most important thing is to pick the right district. That's numero uno. Claire Valdez won because she picked the right district. Daria Lisa won because she picked the right district. Milat won because she picked the right district. Chris Rabb won because he picked the right district. And you picked the right candidate for the district. And there's a lot of really good districts to choose from. So stop picking bad districts to run. Nobody cares, or the carpetbagging shit matters less as long as you have a plausible connection to the community, not the district. Districts are lines on the map. Community is what matters. So like, I really need people to understand that everything the campaign can do flows from the structural question. That's why I don't care about people running in deep red seats usually, because they can't win. It doesn't matter how good they are. They can't win. If you're in an R plus 25, you're not going to win. If you're in an R plus 20, you're probably not going to win, even in the biggest wave possible. Even if you run the perfect campaign, even if I break my back to help you, you just are not going to overcome that much of a structural deficit. So if we're talking about DSA candidates, we need to be picking districts that have weak incumbents and weak machines if possible. And there's a lot of those out there.
Was Democrats need to go everywhere. Wasn't that the takeaway? I'm shocked that we're seeing moderate, center-left Democrats saying they're not even going to speak to Hassan Piker when we know that the best way to get a message out is to go to places where they might not otherwise hear it.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
We gotta get a picture! Come on,
I appreciate you, homie. I love you! Oh, he's so cute.
We also have with us Mr. Hassan Piker.
What's going on, St. Louis?
Hassan Piker has been traveling the country, leveraging his online fame to back progressive candidates and broadcasting their rallies to his 3 million Twitch followers.
We all know the Republicans are corrupt. We all know that they're monsters, they're racist, they traffic in hatred. But we are here to say we are no longer going to vote for do-nothing Democrats either. We're voting for Democrats with a purpose.
It feels like you're running.
No, it's what people keep saying, but I'm not.
Are you concerned that pushing the candidates that you're pushing, you might end up hurting the Democrats nationally in a general election?
I've heard this concern a lot. They said my allegiance with Zoran was actually going to hurt his chances. Andrew Cuomo tried to exploit that. He tried to really hammer on this point that I was a dangerous radical, and so was Zoran, by associating with me. I think for far too long, the conventional wisdom in Washington was don't respond to the needs of the people. Always focus test your messaging and try to find a moderate centrist vision. And we're finding out that the Zoran-style candidacy, the Bernie-crats, are rising up in popularity and fighting against the establishment and seeing tremendous success.
Tremendous success indeed. The political story of the summer is the far left success in New York, in Colorado, California, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey.
And may God bless the United States of America.
Mr. Carville, nice to meet you. I'm Tony O'Sullivan.
One might think all the energy and excitement about a new generation of candidates might be a cause for celebration with the Democratic Party.
This is what I call a sign of an advanced civilization.
But not for party veteran James Carville.
How are you feeling about the midterms?
I feel very good. The only thing that can derail us, we could nominate some of the wrong candidates in the wrong place and not be as successful as I hope.
The wrong candidates, what you mean?
All right, let's take in Michigan. Now, Al-Said is highly competent, but he's way left. I see challenges from the, quote, progressive left, quote. And these people are too hard-headed to know that they're not popular.
I think the thing about Carville that makes him so interesting is he's 81 years old, and he came into power in this very short window where the Democrats had lost 3 presidential elections in a row, and the Cold War had ended, and there was this like moment where capitalist liberalism felt ascendant. And in that exact moment, he got with a sex predator from Arkansas, right? Who, after 12 years of exhaustion of the Republican Party, with a low charisma president, he was able to barely scrape across the finish line because a powerful third-party vote, a powerful third-party candidate of split the Republican Party, and he was able to be elected as president with like the lowest level of the popular vote going back like almost 100 years, right? And this guy thinks that he's popular, right? Bill Clinton got elected with like 42% of the vote. What was the vote? I don't want his stupid campaign. I don't want the campaign. I just want the number. Oh my God. Thank you, Jesus Christ. 43%. The only reason Bill Clinton won is because Ross Perot was in the race and got 19% of the vote as a kind of center-right candidate, a populist right candidate. These guys, they did well electorally because the vote was split 3 fucking ways. And then he ran against Bob Dole. And again, couldn't even crack 50%. I want you to understand that the entire centrist Democratic Party is based off of a guy who's a sex predator creep who basically enacted George H.W. Bush's entire policy agenda and couldn't crack 50% while the economy was in amazing shape. And these guys, here they are 20, what are we at? 30 years later, pretending like he's got insight.
People don't like him. And but if you get a skewed turnout in a primary,
who is the centrist Democrat that they like? The answer is no one.
You might end up losing a race that you should have never lost in the first place.
When you say progressive left, there's a tone of contempt there.
So you were very wise. I hope the camera was able to pick up the contempt.
It's high definition, yeah.
Yes. They don't win elections. They never run against Republicans. They just run against Democrats. And
obviously, this isn't true. Bernie Sanders flipped his seat from a Republican incumbent in 1990. Then he won in the 1994 wave to defend his seat against a Republican in Vermont. The thing is, they look at Vermont, right? And they go, Bernie Sanders comes from Vermont. It's super blue. And then you have a state that's basically identical to Vermont next door called New Hampshire, right? New Hampshire and Vermont are basically the exact same state. The only difference is the shape. Vermont is like top heavy and New Hampshire is bottom heavy, right? They're the exact same state, okay? Same everything, almost exactly the same, except New Hampshire is a purple state. And so what's the difference? Well, in the Democratic Party and the left in Vermont, they have a progressive leader in the name of Bernie Sanders. So it's one of the bluest states of the entire country. In New Hampshire, they've got centrist dopes like James Carville, and Republicans are threatening to win in nearly every election. And the Democratic Party's super unpopular. And it's like you can literally see it. Vermont was literally built around Bernie Sanders from 1990 to today. And the legacy is it's one of the bluest states in the entire country. Complete realignment. It used to be a safe Republican state that didn't even vote for fucking FDR.
Their only message is, we're going to blow everything up.
At this point, you hadn't vetted Graham Plattner. You hadn't done a full scrub of who he is. How did you go about vetting?
Thank you all very much.
Many of the insurgent left candidates are...
By the way, this happens. We literally just had a centrist candidate out in California get exposed and have to drop out who had been a representative for years. This happens in politics. Shit comes out about people we didn't know. That's why it's called a secret. It's how you react to that determines your morality. Not the idea that, oh my God, you didn't know Eric Swalwell. Yeah, exactly. You never knew about this thing. Now that you know about this thing, how do you feel about it? Well, we changed our mind and we got Troy Jackson in there. Next. Who gives a shit? It's how you react that matters.
Conventional.
If what the voters wanted were people who were grown in vats and had never done or said anything, they regret their entire lives, we'd have a very different country.
Plattner, who said he was unaware of the tattoo association, explained that it was the result of a drunken night out years ago.
And some have generated a lot of controversy.
Daralisa Avila Chevalier is now facing questions about deleted tweets saying that she's sympathetic to communism, to Soviet figures, criticizing interracial relationships, saying black and Arab men are both fetishizing ugly colonizer women.
I did not delete those tweets because I was running for office. I deleted my entire Twitter account many years ago.
With one accusation culminating in Graham Plattner ending his bid for Senate.
Did Graham Plattner rape you?
By definition, yes.
Any accusation of non-consensual behavior.
Back in Washington, D.C., it's not only the left-wing candidates that's nervous, it's also their support from Hassan Piker. Jonathan Cohn runs the Democratic centrist group Third Way.
Hassan Piker is unknown to most Americans who determine elections. Swing independent voters had never heard of Hassan Piker. The ones who have wouldn't like it.
Now, here's a couple things here. This type of thinking is actually what I would call virulent stupidity, right? Because smart people, if you believe this, become stupid. Now, I am not a nuance monger, okay? I am suspicious of people who try to tell you, well, it's more nuanced, it's more nuanced. But in this case, we're talking about the largest group of voters in America, which are non-party or independent voters. Anybody telling you that that group of tens of millions of people believe a thing is a lying sack of shit, okay? And a grifter. There are different types of independents. And the vast majority, vast majority of independent voters actually lean toward one party. Some, in many cases, the independent voters that lean toward a party are more left-wing or more right-wing than the party they lean toward. And the question of, like, you know, I've talked about this before, I'll talk about it again. There are 5 different types of voters, right? We talked about this like last week or the week before. And these voters are not, independent voters are persuadable voters, they're drop-off voters. It depends. But the vast majority of people who don't vote or who swing, they swing between voting and the couch, especially the Democratic Party. In the Democratic Party, people swing from voting to the couch. That is, it's not between the two parties that matters. It's maximizing the people that align with you. That's why Barack Obama was able to win Indiana and North Carolina. He wasn't winning from centrist persuasion. He was motivating the entire base. Meanwhile, on the other side, they were depressed with John McCain. Right? They were exhausted. The Republicans were exhausted with John McCain. They had 8 years of George Bush, and we had a disastrous war, which John McCain promised to continue. We had an economic crisis, which John McCain was promising to continue. So the idea that it's like, oh, it's the people that swing from one party to the other to determine elections is nonsensical. Sometimes that's true, but most of the time it's not. And here is net change in voter turnout. Look at these drops. It was overwhelmingly millennials and younger who dropped off. They actually they turned out more white over 65% year olds. Exactly, the James Carville people. The James Carville people loved the Kamala Harris campaign. Leaked memo shows Republicans privately see Francesca Hogg as uniquely dangerous in the general election, and that more moderate establishment Democratic alternatives would likely produce lower base motivation and depressed turnout. And that's the truth. Everybody knows this. You know, I have had the curse of reading places like the National Review for decades. And they used to talk openly about their fear of Medicare for all changing the social contract permanently in America. Once we got Medicare for all or single payer health care, Americans would look at their government differently and they would demand more. And it would make the neoliberal axis unpersuadable, and that the very nature of American politics would be fundamentally altered to the left permanently. They would openly discuss that. I'll be right back.
He's known and popular among a very small subset of young people who are super online and very radical. Fine, have at it. That's how he makes a living.
It's also their support from Hassan Piker. Jonathan Cohn runs the Democratic centrist group Third Way.
Hassan Piker is unknown to most Americans who determine elections. Swing independent voters had never heard of Hassan Piker. The ones who have wouldn't like him. He's known and popular among a very small subset of young people who are super online and very radicalized. Fine, have at it. That's how he makes a living.
You mentioned Piker isn't that famous, but you wrote a Wall Street Journal op-ed about him. Why did you think it was important to do that?
We called him out because we wanted to warn mainstream Democrats not to associate with him, not to elevate him, not to put him on their platforms or campaign with him, because, in fact, that will drive away the swing independent and moderate voters that they need to win.
On Capitol Hill, Democratic Representative Josh Gottheimer went so far as to co-author a resolution condemning Piker for what he described as anti-Semitic hate speech.
This is hate speech intended to incite violence.
Lovely.
Okay.
Are you surprised at just how big an issue Israel has become?
Well, I'm kind of surprised how this issue has become almost a litmus test in primaries across the country.
How do you think that's happened?
Sometimes these issues just, they get a mind of their own.
Here's you explaining that moderates are left wing. Yeah, sure, it's easy. Centrist, moderate Democrats are a fraud. Now, I'm not talking about the voter, the random guy. If you think of yourself as moderate, you're probably not moderate, actually. You're probably not moderate. You just think you are because you've been told that on TV. But if we ask you, like, on issues, you would line up with the left. That's a lot of the confusion that people have, is they think they're moderate, but if you ask them about policy, they're not. 9 times out of 10. This is something that I've talked about a lot. There is no such thing as the moderate vote. I've posted about this a lot. There is no such thing as the moderate vote. Let me see if I can find this. This was a study of people who identified in a survey as moderate. The left-right spectrum is tilted. These two, I don't know if you can see by this category, this is left of center economically. This is right of center economically. Up is more socially conservative, down is more socially liberal, okay? So social liberal, economic left, social liberal, economic left, socially right, economically right, socially left. Does that make sense? The tilting is annoying, but this is, so the vast majority of people that are identify as moderate, some of the people who identified as moderate are far left. Oh, I'm a moderate. And then you ask them questions, and they're like, I believe in seizing the means of production. Most people who identify as moderate are vastly economically left-wing. And so when somebody like Cory Booker says they're moderate, they think they're saying this, but they're actually over here. And notice, this is another thing to notice. Notice how there's almost no one who's a libertarian. I'm a fiscal conservative and a social liberal. But when you actually ask people an ideology quiz, no one's a libertarian. Moderate so often means I don't want to talk to someone who might be a political crank. That's what it means. When somebody calls themselves moderate, they're usually meaning about their personality is chill. They're not a fire breather like me. They're not yelling about politics. They're very chill. That's what they mean by moderate. And left-wing policies are the electable choice. And like, everybody knows this. This is not, by the way, this is not a secret. Like, everything that I'm telling you, they know this. They know this. This is not a secret. This is not a secret. They know this. All right? Like, they're not confused. This is the self-described moderates. Nobody's confused about this. And in fact, there was a very famous time where Third Way did a listening tour. It was covered in the Atlantic. If somebody wants to find me this article, it's insane. They covered it in the Atlantic, where they went and did, like, after the 2016 election, they did like a listening tour and they ignored everything they were told. And they just made a report saying, we need to be at the center.
I don't even think when I talk to voters about it and say, well, you're screaming and yelling at me. What really are you upset about? And it's based on part, I think, a lot of disinformation out there. I often don't really get an answer except, I don't know, I saw something on TikTok.
Hassan Piker, you introduced a resolution condemning him, along with Candace Owens, for, I think, what you characterize as anti-Semitic hate speech. Can you talk us through why was it important to single out Hassan Piker and Candace Owens in particular?
Well, you know, when you start ignoring hatred, and this is, again, look at history against any community, and the hatred bubbles up. And if you don't put it out, if you don't extinguish the fire, the flames just grow. And Hassan Piker is not just some random guy walking down the street screaming something hate-filled. He has millions of followers on his streaming platform. By the way, so does Candace Owens, right? Left and right, but still both filled with anger and spewing just not only disinformation, just lies and deceit, but ginning people up and targeting communities, including Jewish people.
Hassan Piker, of the many controversial statements he has made, he has disavowed some, he has said some have been taken out of context. But, I mean, ultimately, he stands by statements in terms of broad support for Hezbollah, broad support for Hamas. But there's also viral clips of him at a speech, I think in Oxford in the United Kingdom, talking about anti-Semitism and the plague that is.
Anti-Semitism is a canary in the coal mine of fascism. It's one of the oldest bigotries that has caused those of the Jewish faith a tremendous amount of pain.
Notice that, again, do you guys remember at the beginning of this, I talked about the thing I learned in law school was the conclusory statement? Notice that he couldn't actually make an argument about Hassan. He had to make an argument about Hassan using the analogy of Candace Owens. He couldn't like say Hassan Piker bad because Hassan Piker X, Y, and Z substantive thing. He had to analogize it to Candace Owens. He had to tell you the conclusion that Hassan is bad.
Pogroms to the Holocaust, Jews have always been singled out by those in power as a scapegoat for
Is this the article? Safari and Trump's America. Yeah. The country's elite are desperate to figure out what they got wrong, but could they handle the truth? Yeah, that's it. You got it. And it was very funny. It's a very funny read.
Stability and economic volatility.
Hassan Piker's argument is that he is anti-Zionist and not anti-Semitic, and that they are two very different things.
If that's what he believes, then he should probably practice that, because he has done a very good job of smushing the two together.
We have Bernie Sanders and AOC in the building.
Despite the controversies, there are prominent Democrats who recognize Piker's influence and want his followers in the party.
I'm going to do rapid fire now.
For many on the left, Israel has become a litmus test.
Calling out Israel's genocide.
Yeah.
Ending aid to Israel.
Yes.
Sanctioning Israel.
Yes.
A free Palestine.
Of course. But just how fine is the line between criticism of Israel?
The only real tolerated form of anti-Semitism is anti-Zionism. Zionism, as we just heard, is simply the right of the Jews to self-determination in their historic homeland.
An anti-Semitic hate.
What you're saying here about voting for Hamas?
I'm not literally capable of voting for Hamas or Israel.
But isn't that the point of it, though, right? Like, so why say it?
Let's see how many phone calls we got today. Last number check was 60,000 dials. Keep pumping those phones. Keep making those calls. Keep smiling and dialing.
Hassan Piker streams
Diet Pepper, Dr. Pepper Diet?
live for up to 10 hours a day from his home in Los Angeles.
There's other opportunities to do phone banking leading into Election Day as well. Anyway, love you all. And I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place.
For his critics, the 35-year-old has become a symbol of the far-left insurgency in the Democratic Party.
Whew. All right, we're here.
One that they say will lose general elections and hurt Democrats' chances of taking over the Senate in the midterms.
Our community will be there every step of the way.
James Carville says this is all going to implode at the general election.
Yeah, as opposed to previous neoliberal Democratic candidacies that have been spectacular successes so far. Hillary Rodham Clinton in 2016 and Kamala Harris in 2024. I don't think I'm exceptionally good at proselytizing the gospel of socialism necessarily. I think there are a lot of people who are just like, this is not working. Cost of living crisis is completely out of control. Democrats haven't done anything about it. Republicans haven't done anything about it. There has to be a different alternative.
Piker became an issue himself in the Democratic Party when he first campaigned with Abdul El-Sayed, who was running in the Michigan Democratic primary for U.S. Senate.
That's a state that Trump won. And Abdul El-Sayed is my guy. There was a lot of controversy surrounding my affiliation with him, and there was a month of media coverage. And in the aftermath of that, polls came out, and it showed that
Abdul had actually risen to the top. He was in third place before that happened, and he was in first place after it happened.
What's happening is that regular people are now using the media to counter signal. So when the media starts freaking out about someone, they go, oh, that person must be a good person. All the most evil pieces of shit hate them. We're now entering a world of counter signaling. And the more that people like James Carville yell about Hassan Piker, the more popular he gets. The more they trash him on Fox News, the more regular base Democrats like him. All of this is that, and we're living in the backfire world. And the CNN and these people, they don't understand it. They're so out of touch. They're so insulated. And they're so privileged. They don't get it.
Josh and I are trying to do in putting this resolution forward is to say enough.
The House resolution, sponsored by Congressman Gottheimer and Lawler, details some of Piker's controversial statements.
With people like Owens and Piker, and they're not welcome in our districts, and none of this language is acceptable either.
Pairing itself up. While he has apologized for some of his comments and has said others were taken out of context, he has continued to praise Hamas.
You've seen this?
Yes, I have.
A House resolution.
That's never going to get passed, too.
Hassan Piker, a prominent online streamer, has often used anti-Semitic rhetoric, including expressing support for Hamas, a designated foreign terrorist organization. Why do you express support for Hamas?
Well, I wouldn't say I express support for all of Hamas's actions or anything. I do say that the Palestinian resistance largely does have an internationally recognized right to resist. Do they violate that sometimes with war crimes? Absolutely. And Hamas certainly has as well. But at the end of the day, Palestinians do have a right to resist militarily.
When you say Hamas is 1,000 times better, do you actually mean that? Or is that a rhetorical move or like a solidarity signal? Like what?
I mean, it's all of the above. I do mean it. I think it's a rhetorical move because it frustrates a lot of people. I've also said I'm a harm reduction voter. I'm a lesser evil voter, and therefore I would vote for Hamas over Israel every single time.
If you say you're voting for Hamas, you're voting for limited rights for women. You're voting for homophobia. but I mean, like, this is, right? No. Like, when you say you're voting for Hamas.
It's not an endorsement of their domestic policies, but I don't think anyone actually cares about their domestic policies. I certainly don't. Every Palestinian, at the end of the day, regardless of their disagreements with Hamas, will always say that Israel is still, the Israeli occupation is the greatest problem that they're facing, the most existential problem that they're facing.
Do you understand when just the regular American...
Of course, that's the reason.
When they see all this...
Well, that's the purpose of that document. The purpose of that document is not to be like, this guy has spent the last 13 years combating far-right anti-Semitism and far-right radicalization and still continues to do so to this day. As someone who's an anti-fascist, I'm going to oppose Zionism, which is a fascist ideology. These guys can't defend that. So they have to...
All right, chat. Well, we're going to... Don't worry, we're going to keep covering this Hassan thing. But right now, we have one of the most legendary sewer socialists from Wisconsin, Ryan Clancy, has... Oh, wait, I have Oliver Larkin over here. Hold on. Let me fix the name tag here. Hold on here. Give me 1 second. The hell?
I can be Oliver Larkin for a minute.
You're not.
Florida is famously.
Honestly, you should have ran for Congress. We should be talking about your race.
I appreciate the sentiment. I'm really looking forward to actually getting stuff done in Wisconsin with a.
I get it. I get it. There it is. Found it. Boom! Look at that. You're upgraded.
Nice. Oh, excellent.
Okay, chat. So, everybody, if you don't know who Ryan Clancy is, then you've been sleeping under a rock, because this is the foundation upon which sewer socialism's revival in Wisconsin has been built. I want you to say, Ryan, that I personally believe that you are one of the most important leaders in the country. And so why don't you say hi, introduce yourself, say hi to the Central Committee stream, and then we're going to talk about your race for re-election in Wisconsin and how you helped us build Francesca Hong's amazing campaign.
Well, thank you for the setting the bar so high there, Mike. And I got to say, like, did you dress up just for me, or is this the new look now?
I did. I dressed up for Ryan because... Again, as I said, like, unironically, you know, let me pull this up. on your, I'm going to cover your face for 1 second. But if you guys look, 4 years ago, we had Wisconsin State Assembly Socialist candidates Darren Madison Jr. and Ryan Clancy. 4 years ago, only has 438 views on my YouTube, where we built up the left on Wisconsin through this stream. Now, obviously, you know, that was a long time ago. And I remember 10 months ago now, you told me, hey, Mike, we got to bring on Francesca Hong. And here, I'm covering you again real quick. Here we are. Mike interviews the Mamdani of Wisconsin, Francesca Hong, 9 months ago. And it was you who brought her on.
She needs your support to do.
You brought her on. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, we were the first interview, the first media appearance that you guys did in the campaign. Is that right?
Absolutely. No, that was huge. And it's really hard to understate the momentum that gave the campaign. And that has given many campaigns, right? I was first elected in 2020, and I was the first socialist here since 1956. And it was lonely, right? I was on the county board. There were no other socialists around. Even just looking in the last couple of weeks, right? We had Kat Abu-Ghazaleh come up with Kapow, you know, bringing scores of people with her to knock doors for us. At this point in Milwaukee, we have Democratic Socialists elected at the county, at the school board, at the state. We actually just picked up somebody at the city. It's real momentum, Mike, but it is largely in part to you. It's hard to envision all of this happening without you not just promoting us as individuals, but promoting socialism in such an amazing way. I found out, Hassan Piker was just here yesterday. We were hanging out. I found out about Hassan through you, which I don't think is maybe always the normal way to go.
I hear that all the time. It's no big deal.
Okay,
you know?
all right.
No, I'm kidding. You know, I appreciate, here's the thing. I believe that we're all part of the same movement, and through a combination of luck and skill, I'll give myself that, I have been given a relatively moderate sized platform. And I believe that we can punch above our weight through organization and effort. And the reason why I believe that is that I believe we have the hearts of the masses. I think we're in alignment with them, both in policy and in sentiment. And so it's a matter of, can we get around the gatekeepers? Can we talk to regular people about our vision? And then can we organize them to take on the machine of both parties, which is exactly what we're all experiencing. And here's the thing, Ryan, and the reason why I brought you on is because I don't want you to be left behind by, you know, the sexier races, right? Because state legislator, I ran for state ledge. I understand it's not the most, you know, when people are paying attention to politics, sometimes they underestimate how important that job is. You know, Francesca Hong, if she's going to be a successful governor, she's going to need you. She needs you in the assembly in order for her to be able to do anything, or she'll be surrounded by enemies that are going to cut her off at the knees. So we need you back.
Absolutely. And we need a whole bench of folks, especially in Wisconsin's assembly. There are a bunch of really critical races, and I'm trying to get to the point where I'm confident enough in my own seat where I can help all those folks out. Just yesterday, I was knocking doors for David Liners for a surrounding district, because the last time that the Democrats had a trifecta here in Wisconsin, we fucked it up, right? We didn't codify abortion rights. We didn't raise the minimum wage. It's going to be really critical that it's not just me, right? That we have a critical mass of Democratic Socialists or people that will vote with us come January 4th, which is going to be when we have the trifecta and when we have the U.S.'s first Democratic Socialist governor. And that is, it's an exciting time. And I'm just so grateful for you moving the movement along.
Well, you know, here's the thing. Like when we talk about these ideas, one argument that centrists have successfully inculcated into so many good-hearted people, I've even heard it from Democratic Socialists, which is the idea that the people aren't ready for our ideas. You know, a more moderate, you know, candidate is necessary in the swing states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan, which is always surprising because I'm from Pennsylvania. I lived in a swing seat, a swing congressional seat, a swing, Senate seat, a swing governor's mansion, a swing state legislator, and a swing state senate. And people were telling me what politics I was ready for. And I'm sure they tell you the same thing, like, oh, Wisconsinites are not ready for this. This is only in New York City. And so in order for us to convince people, they agree with us on the policies. What they haven't been convinced yet is about political plausibility, right? Which is they don't know what other people are ready for. Like, they're not voting for what they believe in their heart is the good idea. They're making this kind of pundit-brained, lesser of two evils calculation. Not what do I believe, but what will someone else believe? And that person is a media construct. It's the Baileys, right? You know, if you guys know, Chuck Schumer has an imaginary family called the Baileys that he pretends to be like, you know, formulating policy for. And that's it. That's the Democratic Party. That's the false consciousness. They have this imaginary centrist family out there that they're worried about offending.
Right.
And so
and Chuck Schumer, you know, is polling at 9%. Nobody gives a shit what Chuck Schumer thinks. And it's, you know, even the polls are not measuring the enthusiasm, right? I knock on more doors than I think anybody in the state. And there is such a difference between somebody who is, you know, not a Hong supporter, and there are very few of them in my district, right? They seem resigned to the candidate. But when you talk to somebody who is in favor of a Democratic Socialist candidate, especially Fran Hong, they light up. And those are the people who are going to be dragging people to the polls, not just their friends and family, but strangers in November, right?
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, I hate to make this analogy, and you can yell at me if you want, Ryan, but you know, people will say stuff like, we don't want what happened to the Republican Party to happen to the Democratic Party. And I got to tell you, I mean, the Republicans have a trifecta. They've got the White House. They have 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. And they've passed largely their agenda. And, you know, I disagree with their agenda. I think their agenda is evil and sucks. But if you are an evil fascist, you're happy as a clam. So that's kind of fascinating to me, where it's like, we don't want to be successful politically. We don't want to achieve our objectives. That's why we need to moderate. I think that's a bad policy. And here's the thing. I think with Donald Trump, he showed the power of addition by subtraction, right? He was able to distance himself rhetorically from the failures of the Bush administration and the failures of the Republican Party by kicking out the Liz Cheneys and the Dick Cheneys, right? Instead of being saddled with the foreign policy of neoconservatism and the failures of the early aughts, he was able to distance himself by performatively kicking them out. And now that he came into office, he's a war hawk of their wildest dreams. He's fighting a war with Iran, something that even Bush didn't do. But because he was able to kick these people out performatively, he was able to kind of tack to the left of Kamala Harris, and therefore somehow in the minds of regular people, he's more moderate on foreign policy. So the idea that like moderation equals go to the right is the opposite of what I think regular people are thinking about when they say moderate. They're thinking about focusing on their own pocketbook issues. What do you think about
absolutely.
that?
I mean, it's the donors that are moderate, and it's the Democratic establishment that is responding to the donors. Anybody who tells you that people don't want leftist policy, Democratic Socialist policy, is not in the community. They're not on doors in the same way that all of us are. And it is, you know, like the policy that Fran and I put together that would lower property taxes and tax the rich is one of the least divisive policies I've ever seen. I can go to a Democratic Socialist door, a moderate door, a conservative door. Most people like the idea of taxing the rich. Everybody hates property taxes and wants to see those lowered, because in Wisconsin, they're incredibly high, and that provides real relief for people. That's actual permanent affordability. But it's we do win on the policies, and you have to entirely ignore them and the enthusiasm behind the candidates who are pushing them in order to continue to use this old playbook of the only Dem who can win in a purple seat is one that is trying to look like Republicans. Because for every one imaginary voter like that, there are scores of people on the left that an aspiring candidate will get up off the couch, and we have to be going.
Well, that's actually something that's really important. Is when I first got involved in organizing back in 2013, I had this venerable organizer, and they told me a few axioms about politics that that have stuck with me because of how true they've proven to be. And they said to me, Mike, the left falls in love, the right falls in line. So every time we are talking about a motivational, inspirational, expansionist candidate that's full of hope and dreams and change, we win in a landslide. Every time we're trying to discipline our base and tell them they have to vote because of lesser of two evils or how scary the Republicans are, we fucking lose. And I feel like Francesca Hong is exactly that. I don't know if you just saw right before you came on, there was a leaked memo from the Republicans about if Francesca Hong wins, she's going to motivate a bunch of marginal voters, and it might be a big disaster for Republicans in Wisconsin. That contrary to popular belief that she's going to be a drag, she's most likely going to boost turnout among these kind of like lower propensity progressive voters and young people in a way that's going to make all these swing races in Wisconsin unwinnable.
No, absolutely. And it's the data is absolutely clear on that. Looking into the crosstabs of the Marquette polls and all that, Hong is dominating, especially with younger voters and voters who haven't voted before. Not just because they're of their age, but because they felt really disillusioned. And there's only so much we can do to encourage those voters to come out for a moderate conservative Dem. They're just not motivated to do that, and I can't blame them.
I think one of the things that is what I wanted to ask you about, obviously I appreciate you giving me credit. I just feel like I am part of a larger movement, and I see all this energy online in these spaces where people talk about politics a lot, but then it doesn't go anywhere. At most, it's used to like increase the pocketbook of the content creator, right? As an entertainer. Instead of me making content about, Warhammer figurines or unboxing or opening a pack of Pokemon cards, I'm making a show about politics. That sticks to my craw. I hate that. I believe that if I have a platform where I'm able to make a living talking about politics, I should be connecting my community with tangible outlets where we can help change the world in the direction that we all supposedly believe in. And so that's all I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to encourage other creators who talk about politics for money to do the same thing, to like pay back the attention and the money you've received for your opinions and try to actualize them in the real world. And I think that's the bare minimum. So I appreciate you giving me credit, but I feel like I'm doing less than the bare minimum and I want to do more. So this brings me to another question that I'm curious about. What do you guys think you're going to be able to get done that is going to be similar to what's happened with Zohran Mamdani in New York City, where he came into office and he got a bunch of his promises fulfilled right off the bat? What do you think about, Wisconsin as a whole? What is like your top targeted couple issues you feel like you can make real progress and even win on in her first year as governor?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest hurdle here is going to be taxing the rich, because that will give us the funds in order to do all the great things that we want to do, right? We want public banks, we want public grocery stores. We want to lower property taxes. We want to make things easier for the working class. We can only do that if we do the wildly popular thing, which is taxing the enormously wealthy, right? Dollars, $500,000 up or $1 million and up per year of income, looking at wealth taxes and all that. That's going to be an uphill battle with some corporate Democrats who are funded by people making more than $1 million a year. So we have a lot of work to do, but ultimately it's worth it. We have to fight and we have to win. We have to raise the minimum wage. We have to make things actually affordable for actual people. Otherwise, we're going to lose power in Wisconsin for another decade and a half, which is what happened last time when Wisconsin didn't deliver. So the worst thing that could happen here is not that we don't get the trifecta. I think we will. It's that we get the trifecta and we fail to deliver. And that's why so many people here in the DSA, in socialist spaces and leftist spaces all across the state are coming out for candidates who they know will do the right thing, even when it's difficult.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And what about your, obviously, how can people help you? Like, right now in the chat, we have a link for your campaign finance. I want to encourage everybody to donate, because I want to see what's being built in Wisconsin as kind of a model of how DSA should be built everywhere, right? Everybody talks about New York City, right? Which is of course important, and they're doing great things. But I think the actionable, copyable program is what you guys have built. Because most cities in America are similar in size to Madison and Milwaukee, not New York City or LA. And if we're going to get a socialist majority in Congress, we have to build in places like Milwaukee. We have to win in places like Madison. And so do you feel like, the model that you guys have built there and around Wisconsin is replicatable And how should we do that, like, in order to achieve that, like, big change we know we need in this country?
Yeah, I mean, part of that is folks like you, right? I think we have the infrastructure, we have amazing candidates, and we have an amazing community here. We see that when our community is threatened by ICE and in other ways, we show up for each other. The only thing missing is money, and I've been really grateful for your support. And also, we've seen a handful of class traders kind of come out of the woodwork who are able to, drop $1,000 into a race like mine, which is the maximum, or even max out to Fran at $20,000. And that's getting more and more common. I had somebody after a debate a couple of weeks ago. I won't say his name here, but I'm very, very appreciative of him. Come up to me afterwards, and it was like he was coming out. Right. And he said, he waited until everybody was kind of gone. And he said, I think I might be a socialist. And I said, great. Welcome to the club. And then he said, I'm one of those people who makes more than $1 million a year. And I said, class traders, welcome. This is great. And here's how you can help. And he did. And I'm grateful to folks who are not just directly benefited by working class policy, but folks whose bottom line may be hurt, but they know that it's the right thing to do, and they're willing to chip in for all these.
Oh, I mean, like, obviously, I've talked about this before, but like, as a socialist, part of our strategy is building this like social democratic bulwark, and then we could focus on the like, from a position of strength, building up labor power, building up our ability to, achieve economic democratization and decommodification, and we can move forward and do bold, persistent experimentation to build up, the economy of the 21st century of the future, right? There's so many technological changes that we're confronting, and we need to make sure that they're, if they pan out, the benefits go to everyone and not just a couple hundred rich tech bros in San Fran, right? Oh shoot! Did I lose my audio? Hold on. I'm gonna keep talking. Okay. Sorry. Everything's great. What was I saying? Oh yeah. I mean, that's exactly.
Let me take a quick minute while your technology is failing.
It's good. But go ahead.
I want to shill for you. I've watched enough of your stream that I think I can pull this off. And I gotta say, you can support this stream and help Mike get a new mic by gifting tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 subs. If you have Amazon Prime, you can attach that to your Twitch account and get 1 free sub a month like I do. And I'm going to gift 8 subs right now so that you can get a better microphone, and because it gets me a better badge.
Wait, you think my microphone sucks? Wait, you guys think my mic
make sure
sucks?
that folks are supporting the stream here.
Do you guys think my mic sucks? Is that what people are saying? The fuck? I appreciate that. Guys, give subs. Don't embarrass them. No, I mean, I appreciate that. I'm doing well. I do give a lot of money, and unfortunately, when I give people money, it is newsworthy now, which is very funny, because for example, I gave to a mayor in LA chat, Ray Huang, who I didn't even have on the stream. But I donated to her campaign, and therefore it became like an article that was written about my donation. So I'm now basically, as far as the LA Times is concerned, Koch brothers, Mike from PA. We're roughly this. Wait, a treasure train? Whoa! Wait, okay, guys, I'm sorry. But right now, we have a 35% discount with an ultra rare treasure train. Wow. So not only did Ryan chill, he triggered at a super rare treasure train. Anyway, okay, let's go back to the important stuff. So I wanted to, obviously we could talk more about Wisconsin, which is very important. But what I wanted to ask you about is what made you guys believe that Fran could succeed? Because I remember, let me just build this up. Nobody else would have in America had the gonads, the cojones, the ovaries, to whatever you want, whichever you're talking about, to actually run for this, right? Like, and when she ran as a state legislator, running for governor against Mandela Barnes and all these statewide Democratic machine politicians, why did you guys believe you could do it? And what motivated you to give it a shot?
It's because we've seen her work. We've seen her at work, and even at the very beginning of her campaign. I believed in her and I knew that she could do it. But the first couple of campaign stops in rural areas that she made, sold her to me in terms of electability, which is the only thing that her opponents are trying to hit her over the head with, because they don't want to talk policy, because her policies, our policies, are widely popular all across the state. But we'd show up in Wild Rose, Wisconsin, where they had a combined library city hall center that was absolutely tiny, and she was showing up there unapologetically, not being asked about democratic socialism, but leading with that and saying, I'm a democratic socialist. That means that I want you to have housing, that I want people to stop going after your SNAP benefits, that I want everybody to have healthcare. And when you show up that earnestly and you know what you're talking about, and she's amazing on policy, people are coming along quickly. And it is wild to me when I still talk to people in urban areas knocking doors for Fran, and they talk about electability. And it's usually at this point a kind of a dog whistle, right? It's them not wanting to say that they're not on board, but they're going to ascribe this to other magical people. But I've talked to the people in northern Wisconsin. I've talked to people in those rural areas that absolutely adore her and adore what she stands for and adore our policy. And that's why I'm so excited about the next couple of years under Fran.
One thing that I would say, and this is actually probably a very important talking point that if I could get to Fran, I would, which is she's going to win all those exurban and rural and suburban districts. So the idea that she's only popular in the big cities where the young people are is going to be wrong. I mean, I expect her to win every single county, but if she loses anyway, it will be Milwaukee, right? She's going to win the entire rest of the state. So her message, especially things around data centers, are resonating with people who may not have even considered themselves democratic socialists until they heard what Fran was trying to do and they were on board. And for me, electability is just an excuse not to talk about policy.
Exactly. No,
right?
that's it.
Tell me one of Fran's policies you think make her unelectable. Don't talk about the label, talk about the policy. And they won't, because the moment they do, then 90% of Democrats are going to realize these people are not on our team. They're playing for the other side,
And it's because she's unapologetic about that, right? Even yesterday in a room with probably 2,000 people and Hassan and Representative Omar came in to do a fundraiser for both me and Fran, and I'm touched
Amazing.
by it. And in that place, she is running towards everything that a small group of people say make her unelectable. She introduced herself as a single mom. She introduced herself as, our first Asian woman governor. And people are not turned off by that. In fact, all the attacks on her, right? That at one point she had credit card debt. Everything makes her more relatable to people across Wisconsin, right? I had $30,000 worth of credit card debt is rookie numbers, right? I had $100,000 at one point.
Yeah.
And the reason she had that debt was that she wanted to support her employees during the pandemic and wanted to make sure that they got paid. So every time they try to go after her, whether it's identity or whether it's policy, or whether it's her sordid history of struggling with debt, it just makes her more identifiable. That's why she's going to crush it on August 11th.
Well, Ryan, this is something that I talk about all the time. But the problem isn't who you are; it's that you are skeptical of the system and the status quo. If you're a rich socialist, you're a champagne socialist who's out of touch and who's you're Hassan. How dare you have a Porsche? How dare you have a shirt?
As you're doing that, I'm going to put on my smoking jacket because I want to keep up with the Joneses here.
Yeah, now we're talking. Yes. Okay. Wow. That is a smoking jacket. If you're a poor socialist, they say it's politics of envy. You're a loser. You're a failure. You couldn't make it. Oh, chat. We are at 90% through level 14 of the hype train. Let's make this the biggest hype trade of the month so Ryan can dunk on me that he can chill better than I can. Anyway, and if you're a middle class socialist, you know what they do, Ryan? They go after your job. They call your boss. They call your professional organization. They try to, they call your HOA and they try to intimidate you to shut the fuck up, right? So no matter where you are in society, if you're rich, it's because you're rich champagne socialist who's out of touch. If you're poor, it's because politics of envy and you're a loser. If you're middle class, they're going to ruin your life and they're going to try to deny you, advancement and promotions and success in your career. So there's no place you could exist and be skeptical of this system, because no matter where you are, the problem isn't with you as a person. It's with your ideas that society should serve everyone, not just the few. And so, okay, I'm really excited about the campaign, and you know, I do consider this race to be the most important race, because you guys did this with two main elements. One, the unbelievable work and organization of DSA in Wisconsin, led by you and Fran and many other unspoken, you know, DSA members who are grinding out every day on the doors and the phones and in the text messages. And your linkage with the kind of like national socialist movement embodied through our, you know, Hassan, myself, a few other places that have been willing to help you get around the media gatekeeper. This has not been a campaign of the like so-called progressive nonprofit industrial complex. I feel like you guys have not gotten the requisite support. And so I want to, you know, I want to ask you about that. Why do you think it's so hard to kind of corral nationals, progressives to support campaigns like Fran's? Why are they so reticent to do it?
I mean, there is some tendency to just want to support the folks who are closest to you geographically, right? But we're changing that. We're seeing that very different. We're going to have State Representative Dylan Weglia is coming in to knock
nationwide. By the way, nationwide socialist, not national socialist. God damn it!
Not national socialist. No, absolutely no.
Sorry. God damn it! God damn it! Hitler, you ruined it. We can't say socialist now. Fuck, God damn it. I'm so sorry. We're not national socialists. No. Sorry. God damn it. Socialist movement nationwide. God damn it. Jesus Christ.
We are seeing folks from all over the place, right? This, even yesterday, right? I'm going to shout out the folks from Philly. We had a bunch of DSA members who are part of our, part of our larger movement. They came in, they're knocking doors for Fran yesterday. And then one of them ran into me, and I connected with him, gave him my number. He's going to run for state assembly in Pennsylvania, and wanted to talk about my experience running for a state seat. And we were connected through you. He wouldn't have found out about me. I wouldn't have found out about him had it not been for you connecting.
Thank you.
So many people and chapters and organizations all.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, we might have to talk about this offline, because I'm just spitballing here, and I don't have everything figured out. But I feel like I would like DSA to mature, and obviously there's a power in the decentralized model, but we should also take, the lessons that are working and try to apply them, as opposed to becoming kind of like just a bunch of like very loosely affiliated groupings. You know what I mean? Like, it's very clear that your strategy is working in Wisconsin. It's very clear to me that the strategy is working in New York City. And so I think that we should take those lessons and try to apply them so that we can have a movement that Democratic Socialists of America apply. There's so many opportunities. I was just saying to my chat, there's 176 seats that are D+20 or better in Congress. DSA should be the majority of those seats. We should not have right-wing Democrats who are in the pockets of crypto or in the pockets of the oligarchs in Democratic seats that blue. What do you feel about having increasing the ambition of DSA and looking for opportunities to seize power nationally?
Yeah, and I think, I'm insufferable when I go on vacation with my family. One of the things I do if I'm in a city for more than a couple of days is actually try to get a hold of the local DSA chapter, because I want to see how other folks are doing things, both electorally and organizing. We'll do it in Indiana. I was very thankful to be hosted by the Twin Cities DSA during Operation Metro Surge, and learned a lot from those folks. But I don't want to say that Milwaukee or New York or anybody is doing it like the one right way.
Oh no, right, of course.
Have more cross-pollination between chapters, because as electeds we're very different. As the people who got us into office were very elected. We're very different. And I think we need more of that, figuring out best practices, because we're all in this together. And not working in silos is huge, and I love seeing how other chapters.
Yeah, and I think that's what I want to do. Like, because for me, I see this DSA is surging in popularity because of people like Fran, because of people like Zoran, because of people like yourself. And the reason why, and I'm sorry for having this topic come up, but you've been on my stream so many times. We're gonna have some fun.
We're like family. It's great.
Yeah, we're like family. But it's like it's very clear to me that people are interested in our ideas because we plausibly can take power, right? Like there's only so many hours in the day, and the kind of quixotic, symbolic message campaign doesn't seem to get through to people. They don't care about that. But the moment you say, I could win power, and then you have a progressive platform or a socialist platform, then people are sitting up in their chairs and saying, I've been waiting for this my entire life. It's that our ability to win is what makes us, makes the working class pay attention to what we're saying and giving it any kind of credibility. So I think there's been this balance between like, oh, we need to be running as just third parties or just independents and not do the, Democratic Party surrogate model. Do you think that we've kind of definitively determined that running in primaries is overwhelmingly the right call? Or are you more, do you still think that there's some question as to the right method electorally?
Yeah, so it really depends on the state and the situation, right? So I'm going to say, in theory, if I wanted to run as an independent candidate or run as a Democratic Socialist candidate on the ballot and I won, it's not clear that I would have an office or that I would have a staff, that I would have any committee assignments. Our two-party system here in Wisconsin is so entrenched that I would be jeopardizing the jobs of my socialist staff just by even attempting that, even if I won. And I think you can look at situations like that all across the country, and different states are doing it very differently. I will say that the only hope for the Democratic Party is to have a big tent that includes the left. Like when they talk about the big tent, it seems like the tent is staying the same size and they're dragging it over to the right.
Right.
And for many years, we've been under assault, not by fascists and Republicans, but by people in our own party who are, in my case, identifying and recruiting and funding the most moderate and conservative candidates. I have one now. I had one 2 years ago. And frankly, they're outraising me. I have a candidate who's taking out billboards whose average donation is hundreds of dollars to my, I think, $60. And that's a problem. We really have to be pushing back on the idea that the Democratic machine can only be controlled by.
Right. Yeah, I mean, talking about the big tent party, I get it, but it's really a question of who's in the driver's seat, right? Like, if the policy, and also like the question of like, how do we make the Republican Party normal again? And for me, if you look back at history, the Republican Party was the most normal when they were getting their ass beat the most, when they had the least amount of power, when the New Deal was being implemented or the Great Society. That's when Republicans were voting for the civil rights amendments or bills, right? Like that, it's because they were losing so badly. So if you want to make the Republicans normal, you don't do so by doing bipartisan bills and moderating the Democratic Party. You do it by beating them so badly they have to change. That's how you make the Republican Party normal again. And like fundamentally, ultimately, question of like the big tent or what we're trying to achieve, the system is rigged right now to help the Republicans. Like corporate money is not distributed evenly between the Democrats and the Republicans. It's 75-80% to the Republicans. And then you have some Democrats getting paid off. And fundamentally, by accepting this system, what we're doing is we are accepting our own irrelevance. And so what do you imagine would need to be done? Like, do you see like campaign finance reform as like a key pillar of what Fran needs to do when she gets into office in Wisconsin? And what do you think about like ranked choice voting and, donor matches for small dollar donors and other policies that could build the left's power long term by democratizing the voting system?
Yes to all that. So yes, we need to be privileging small dollar donors. We need ranked choice voting and fusion voting, frankly, as long as it's done right, makes a ton of sense, and that would help. But the biggest thing we can do is to stop propping up and supporting those conservative Democrats who are taking those corporate dollars. Because even in fundraising circles, you have Democrats openly admitting what you just said, right? That yes, the Republicans are always going to get more money than we are, but we have to beg for our scraps. But we know, and we see on streams like this and in other places, when people are principled, when they're not taking those dark dollars, when they're not courting those large donors, unless they're class traders, very much happy about that people respond to that. And we have to ultimately replace people who do not reflect our values.
Yeah, I mean, I had this conversation with Fran, and I want to have it with you. I tend to believe in a structural first approach, right? Which is, if we're going to win for the long term, like the Republicans held power for a long time in Wisconsin because they were nakedly gerrymandering the fuck out of the state, right? It wasn't because they were popular and people liked them. They understood that the structure of the system determines its outcome. And you know what I mean? So they were, nakedly obvious in their desire to change that system for their own benefit. I think we have to fundamentally take a page out of their book and not necessarily rig it to cheat, but to make sure that the structure is robust and as democratized as possible. And that way in the future, because maybe it's not always going to be a D plus 10 or 12 or 15 year like it is now, there's going to be some sort of thermostatic effect the other way in order to prevent the flood of corporate donors and AIPAC money from winning elections because people just don't even hear what people like you have to say. We need to build the systems to robustly protect it from, this kind of interference from corporations like you're discussing.
So yes, and there's a fine line for me between making sure that we're making systems fair again and then rigging them in our own.
Right.
In our own favor. And I've heard some folks who were like, well, we're going to get down in the mud. We're gonna do to them what they did to us, and that's what the Republicans expect, right? We've had, I think, 15 Republicans in a relatively small legislature say that they're just not running for re-election. They see which way the wind is blowing, and they don't want to be treated by us like they did to us. In fact, when I was turning in my signatures, I was sitting down with a Republican, and I was like, how do you think this is going to go? And he wouldn't really engage in that. And I said, we're going to be so much nicer to you than you were to us when we get the majorbut
my language here. I'm not built that way.
But the way that we're nice is by winning and not skewing the system in our favor. I want to make it fair and I want to keep it fair. The Republicans have terrible ideas and terrible bills. I want to give them hearings so that we can show up and let people know how terrible those bills are. Sure. I don't want to stop the exchange of ideas. That works in our favor.
Oh no,
because that's not fair. I want to rig the maps, but I do want fair maps.
Yeah. I completely understand, and I completely agree from the principle point of view. I feel you. I do. But for me, since I'm not a politician, I could just tell you, for me, the biggest threat to our country is the power of the Republican Party. And, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because the way the Republican Party is operating now is they have contempt for democracy. They don't have in political science, we call it democratic norms, right? Which is, I might not agree with the opposition. I may campaign vigorously about my ideas, but fundamentally, the voters have an aura of finality. The elections have legitimacy. And if the voters vote for that side, they have the right to try to pursue their policies. I'm going to vigorously campaign against it, argue against each point, vote against it in the legislature. But fundamentally, I accept the legitimacy of the other side. They don't. And in fact, they're attacking the very like Tiffany, who's running against Francesca Hong for governor. He's an election denier. And that type of shit is treasonous. What makes our system function is the fact that we can accept the democratic contest and the results, and we have minority rights, and they're breaking that social compact. So I don't know how we engage with them, while they are pursuing a politics like that. Do you think about that? Like, I hate to be so partisan.
All the time.
But like, how do we punish? I think that's the only way to put it. Punish this kind of anti-democratic behavior. Do you think it is we need to prosecute more election deniers or interferers or the people that were in January 6th You think we missed the opportunity there with Biden? Or, you know, how do we approach people that are like attacking the legitimacy of the system itself with no evidence and no proof of wrongdoing?
I mean, I prosecuting them, right? Jailing folks that are election deniers, that legitimizes them and that gives them the ability to be martyrs to a cause which should not. We have to make sure that we're protecting elections, right? We have legislation that would stop folks from being masked, troops or otherwise near election places. We need to make sure that we're protecting elections and then not legitimize attacks by law.
So having faith in the people. Having faith in people,
there is some appeal there to sending Republicans to the jails and prisons, but because so that they can see the terrible conditions that exist in Wisconsin and elsewhere. But I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Of course.
Which is Republicans. So it is tough. It is so tough to be.
You
right
and I
on
have
these
a slight,
things.
you and I have a slight
you feel this
disagreement.
too.
Well, here's the thing. Like I agree with you 100% about the question of efficacy, right? Like, you know, in our society, we're not having the same conversation. Like, I believe in criminal justice for the purpose of minimizing harm and antisocial behavior and protecting the innocent, right? Like, we need to have some sort of process to make sure a domestic violence abuse victim or a child who's being sexually predated upon, or somebody who is, is eating people up or is completely out of control. We have to have public safety to help those people, and protect our community. I think everybody's on board with that. But on the right, they're focused on punishment and almost like a sadistic version of criminal justice, where it's like, these are bad people and we get to torture them.
Exactly. So the last two sessions, I've spent a ton of time going to the jails. And the one question that I always ask is, other than not being here yourself, what would you change about this? And the answers have been absolutely. I talked to one person at a county facility who, because they had to pay so much for their calls, pretended that he didn't want to talk to his children. And his wife has told their children that dad doesn't want to talk to you. And he only does that because they cannot afford to both put food on the table and to pay for the extremely ridiculous phone calls, because they've banned visitation. And right, I've talked to other folks who said that the way that they would change the thing around them is to be able to see outside. There's another facility in Milwaukee where when you're in your cell, you don't have a window. You can see vaguely if it's light or dark. But maybe once or twice a week, you get let out into a common room where there's very little to do other than look at the sky for a little while. The idea that we have to legislate these in Wisconsin under a Democratic governor who could snap his fingers and change a lot of these conditions is absolutely.
Well, I think this is like a very important point for Fran and yourself, is like, it's not just empathy for people that committed offenses. It's just logical that we're trying to reduce recidivism. And in order to reduce recidivism, we have to have people that are coming out of our jails ready to become profitable members of society, reintegrate, who have learned, who have treated the problem that caused them to offend in the first place, and are ready to reenter society with skills and knowledge, and are going to like get their life back on the right track, earn redemption, which is a societal value that we all believe in, right? That somebody who was bad before can change. That is the essence of what makes our society function. And the thing is, we have models of other countries where they focus on rehabilitation and skills, and where they show compassion, and they have a lot less recidivism. They have a lot less people reoffending. It's if you care about public safety and reducing crime, which when we say crime, what we mean is antisocial behavior. When someone harms another, if you want to reduce that, you have to change the conditions of the offender. You have to make them believe that society cares about them and that they have a place, and give them the skills to serve their neighbor.
I don't want more punishment. I want fewer victims. And
Exactly.
The way that we get that is by making sure that folks have as much dignity as we can muster, and then keeping them connected to their communities. Like the worst answer to what would you change about this place is when people say, I just want to be better when I leave than when I went in, right? They want to have a skill set. They want to show remorse. And in Wisconsin, as in many places, we only provide meaningful programming to folks for like a year and a half or so before they're released, even if they're in there for decades. And that is unconscionable, right? We're locking up too many people, so we have very few resources.
Right. I have to make this point because I think that, from having so many conversations with regular people, the reason why so many of them get resistant to the idea of like rehabilitation is because in their own lives, they don't have access to healthcare. They don't have access to training, education, right? They don't have access to the services or that they need to advance their own lives. So when they see a program to give a criminal a free college education or a GED or something, they're like, but my kid has to borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars to get educated? That's not fair. I follow the rules. I'm paying my taxes. Why am I not getting that? So the thing about this austerity and the centrism and the status quo is not only are they making us more unsafe, they're creating this climate of austerity, which leads to bad outcomes because it seems unfair to get, focus on the rehabilitation of an offender as opposed to maximizing the potential of somebody who's like, kid did really well in high school, but they come from a poor family. We need to make sure that that child is getting the same opportunities or better opportunities, right? And that is that's why places like Norway, for example, they were able to focus on rehabilitation because for regular citizens, they get they know what they're paying for. When they pay taxes, they understand that they're going to get a return that's relevant to their life, which is why Fran, and you winning is so important because austerity mindset leads to conservative outcomes, which causes us to have a worse society.
The only way we reduce crime is by investing in people, and the data is crystal clear on that. And it makes life better, right? I mean, it's not just that it reduces crime and you have fewer victims. It makes life better for everybody else to have housing and opportunity and public spaces and all the things good and worth living.
One last question, one topic that I wanted to cover with you, which is like linking your guys' movement with the history. This is something that we always talk about when you're on here, which is the history of socialism in Wisconsin. Because I feel like this story, although you and I and a few others have started to tell it, is a very important rebuttal to the dumb idea that the only thing that works is corporate centrism. So how do you see a connection to, like you mentioned, by the way, running as an independent and winning? Victor Berger ran for Congress. He was the first socialist elected, and they refused to seat him. And so that this is not a hypothetical. This is a lived experience of Milwaukee. They elected the first socialist, and he wasn't seated for like multiple cycles, even though he was winning. And so the question I have to you is, how do we link like basically all these ideas that come from the socialist movement in Wisconsin to today as a way of explaining that these ideas are not radical, they're homegrown. They're not from outside, they're from Wisconsin and our own history.
I mean, Wisconsin is where kindergarten was born. It's where workers' comp is from, right? It's all these programs that folks all across the country absolutely love. And I think the takeaway from Victor Berger not being seated is that when the system messes with people who are putting forward really good, really popular ideas, it pisses people off. And we're really
Social Security was one of his ideas as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, I don't want to say that all the best ideas come in, but I'd say a fair amount of them. And we'll take credit for the things that we did here. But it's going to be fascinating on August 12th, right, the day after our to see if the blue no matter who folks are actually going to vote and full-throatedly endorse Francesca Hong, or if it's going to be behind the scenes, because she can win either way, right? But if people see Fran putting forward policies, promises that will become policies when she's in power, and they see their moderate and conservative and establishment representatives not backing those up publicly, they're going to be replaced. And it is galling to me how many people, especially in the last couple of weeks, where it is very clear that Fran is, and probably big margin, how many folks are coming to that campaign, which is run out of my house here by my brilliant wife, Becky Cooper, and to all the members of the Socialist Caucus, like all these moderates and lobbyists coming out of the woodwork saying, look, I know we've never really seen eye to eye, and I've gone after you in public, but really I'm a secret socialist now. We're cool, right? We're not going to get the wall after Fran wins, but we'll see how much that translates into actual.
Well, listen. Like being magnanimous in victory is an important trait. Like I feel like, listen, the Republicans are the problem that we need to solve, right? And this is something that's naturally going to happen. Some people they're going to be intimidated to vote along with us. If ultimately the reason they vote for childcare is because they were scared they're going to get primaried, I don't care. Vote for it, and they're right. Like, we will probably prioritize the people that are against Fran, right? Like, if they don't support Fran, we're going to go after them, right? Like, I promise you, like, Hassan and I will go after anyone in Wisconsin who doesn't support Fran, who's a Democrat. You know what I mean? Like, that's not like an if. That's a definite promise, 100%. You will have a primary. Put it in your pipe and smoke it. Like, or you could just work with the Democratic Party nominee to win. Like, there is an alternative.
We'll take the vote either way. We will work up a list, but I want to make sure that you're promising on the record that you are coming out to Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Pick you up from the airport.
I'm coming to
We're going to make
Madison.
sure you're
I'm
VIP
coming to
in Madison.
Oh,
You'll probably have to drive with me because we don't actually have light rail that connects Milwaukee and Madison, but we'll
I'm actually going right into Madison.
Fair.
I
Okay.
sprung for the extra little bit of money for the direct flight, just for travel and time related reasons. But yep, already booked, already hotel chosen. We're already ready. Sliding into Madison. If you want to drive me around and show me the VIP life, that would be great. I will accept.
We'll take you into the Capitol building.
Just message me. Just message me after the stream. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. Is there anything else that we can do? Feel free to spam the chat. I have your right now. Let's see here. What did we raise? Everybody donate to Ryan. What do we got? What did we raise? We got at the hype train. So what do we do? Okay, we're at $5,343. Let's go ahead and get another couple $100 in there, chat. This is like honestly, the thing with Ryan is that your leadership, your campaign, as you were like one of the original seeds, and we're all benefiting from that. And so I want to make sure. What happened?
I'm doing. I want to show you the heat map of all the donations.
Oh yeah, of course.
It actually shows up. It shows the map of the U.S. and you can see.
I allowed you. Just don't dox yourself. That's the only.
Please don't judge me for having like 150 tabs up on the top here.
No,
what
it's
you're looking
fine.
at is a map of everybody.
Hold on. How do I make sure this is working? How do I?
I can't see it either, and I can't see the chat now. Well, let's have to.
Where is the? Oh, that's not it. Did you share? Did it work? Chat. Where is it? Is it in the share? Everybody donating. Thank you. You can also screenshot it and DM me. Mike, come to a Rock River DSA meeting. We're south of Madison.
And it is amazing to see all the chapters popping up, not just in Wisconsin, but across the U.S. We are seeing very rural areas finally get DSA chapters. It's an exciting.
All right, did you?
I will send you a screenshot of that so you can see all.
Yes, I will. I will definitely. Sorry, I can't figure this out.
Even if it's a small amount, it'll put a blue dot on that map. And that was what made me, frankly, like emotional the first time I was on your stream, because I thought it was just going to be a handful of folks, and to see that support from all over and I know that our enemies are looking at that too. In fact, my opponent is attacking me for taking so many out-of-state donors, to which my response is, I'm sorry that I'm popular with people outside of the community as well, and they are supportive, and they are looking to Wisconsin for what we could do. And again, Mike, that's on you. And
well, I mean, like, listen, like I've said this for a while, but I believe like all politics is now international. Elon Musk doesn't respect borders. He's going to the UK and trying to get them to elect fascists. He's going to Germany and trying to get them to elect fascists, the alternative for Deutschland. He's going to France and try to support fascists. He's going to Spain to try like this is an international fight, right? And so the least we could do is fight on those terms. And we're all connected. Wisconsin, a success in Wisconsin is a success for all of us, for DSA everywhere. Just like a success in New York City was a success for DSA everywhere. People are connected more than ever. That is the promise of the 21st century, is that what happens to you, what happens to the people at Gaza affects me. And so good and bad, we are all connected. So I think we all have an obligation to fight the bad and support the good wherever it pops up. And I have to say, Wisconsin, you guys are a beacon of light. Madison, Wisconsin, you guys are the true city on a hill. And so thank you so much, Ryan. If you have anything else you want to spam or
Thank
or
you.
promote?
Well, no, I just I've already shilled for you, I guess, but I did want to say that the weirdo Zionists here in Wisconsin really are trying to make it exact. They tried it 2 years ago, where
You think they're going to give up?
80%. I hope so, and I think part of it would be not just winning this time, but winning by a bit. But you know, I'm being outraised. If you can help push back on that Zionist cat, absolutely.
Well, we've got 8 days.
Yeah, the most recent goal here, which is $7,566. That's what I raised in all of July, all of last month. If we can get there, that would be huge, and that would mean that we could do a mailer to, I think, almost the entire universe in our district. That would really.
Well, thank you. Yeah, everybody donate, and I'm so glad you came on, Ryan. I hope it wasn't too annoying. I appreciate you so much. I'm so proud of you guys. Can't wait to hang out in person. You guys could feed me all the hot fondue or the the curds. I've heard something about curds,
sausage, and a lot of booze.
Culver's, I heard of there's such a place. Is that right? Culver's?
I need folks to go to Francesca Hong's social media and then look at her really controversial take on Culver's cheese. It was divisive. It was perhaps the most divisive thing that she said. But I'm sticking with her despite that.
Well, you know, I have similar opinions. Like sometimes people ask me Sheetz versus Wawa, and the answer is like very simple. If you are leaving a bar, it's Saturday, you're with your friends, you're socializing, Sheetz 100%. Okay. If it's the middle of the day on a Wednesday and you're in business casual and you're driving from the office and you need to get a quick bite to eat, you go into Wawa. All right. And like, you don't go to Sheetz during the day, weekday, and you certainly don't go to Wawa after hanging out with your friends. Okay. There is a clear division of labor here. All right. And so that causes everyone to be mad at me. Because
you're bringing a bunch of people together. That actually seems undivisive. But our equivalent here is called Quick Trip. It has a cult following, but we are not going to go there during your visit. They give money to fascists. And
oh, really? Oh, okay. Disgusting. Get them out of here. Yeah, get them out of here.
Great though. That's the thin blue line.
All right, I can't wait. I'm excited. And don't worry, I've already got the Midwest body, so we're going to go wild at Culver's.
We'll do the Dad Bod August tour. It's going to be great.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, Ryan, for coming on. Everyone donate. Let's get up to 75.66. All right. I'll see you, brother.
Appreciate you.
Peace out. Bye-bye. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that was one of America's premier sewer socialists. That's Mike from PA Thought in action. And it has resulted in Francesca Hong. I want you guys to understand. Like Jaeger Larson, thank you guys so much for all the gifted subs, by the way. I need you guys to understand that we are only able to do what we do because of people like Ryan. The legitimacy that we have come from that man. Okay, this is no joke. Like, he is a real one. And we're gonna put that mother effer in Congress whether he likes it or not. Eric Adams is on his AI data center grift. Over the past weekends, former mayor Eric Adams was in Wisconsin Rapids trying to convince residents that they should allow a real estate developer to build a data center in the heart of their town. These are the people who are trying to tell you that she's unelectable. Unbelievable. All right, chat. Well. Let's finish this Hassan CNN thing. And if you're in Milwaukee, you better be ready for me. You better have stuff for me to do. I swear to fucking God. I'm depending on you all.
Attack its prominent critics.
I will always call out anti-Semitism. It's gross, it's immoral, it is a hate crime. There is no space for anti-Semitism.
Hang around the progressive left.
He'll DM me the thing
for any amount of time, and you'll likely hear about AIPAC.
I'm speaking about AIPAC.
AIPAC funding.
What makes AIPAC unique is that they're funded.
Mike, you were the major reason I'm running for my district rep at the state legislature. Maybe it's South Dakota, but the seat is winnable. The establishment devs are scared of you. The other progressives winning. Hell yeah, brother. Hope you're out on the doors.
By billionaires.
AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, is an American lobbying group that advocates for pro-Israel policies in Washington, D.C.
In the United States, our support for Israel is bipartisan, and that is how it should stay.
For decades, politicians on both sides of the aisle have engaged with AIPAC and
By the way, speaking of both sides of the aisle, did you guys hear that John Ossoff owns Israeli bonds? 5 months later, Ossoff voted against 2 of Bernie Sanders' amendments that would have blocked $8.8 billion in arms sales to Israel. Ossoff also could face attacks from the left over his ownership of bonds in the state of Israel. This motherfucker bought Israeli bonds for his investment portfolio? That's insane.
Spoken at its annual conference in Washington.
The largest AIPAC gathering in history, and I feel like I am among family.
In Michigan, the group has spent upwards of $30 million against Senate candidate Abdul el-Sayed, who has been critical of the Israeli government and their actions in Gaza. But in parts of the Democratic Party, AIPAC is now deeply unpopular.
Now is the time of monsters. These monsters take many forms. In AIPAC, for whom the only thing more frightening than democracy being allowed to run its course is an end to genocide and Netanyahu's wars.
Like other groups, they fund campaigns supporting and opposing candidates. Critics of politicians like Mamdani say that the singling out of AIPAC is anti-Semitic.
Something has happened when elected officials, like our mayor in this city, gaslights Jews, calling AIPAC and the people who support it monsters?
Cori Bush lost her seat in Congress in 2024. She blames AIPAC.
It was a coordinated effort because I was speaking about keeping our money here in this country and not bombing babies in another country.
Another anti-Israel member of Congress, Cori Bush.
More than $7 million was spent to oppose Bush in 2024, a historically high amount for a congressional primary race.
So-called squad member faced a fierce primary challenge from Democratic opponent Wesley Bell. That's after his campaign saw an influx of cash from the Israel-aligned super PAC, AIPAC.
The ads never said Israel, Palestine, Gaza. The ad said Cori is not a good Democrat.
Bush was good at getting headlines, but bad at actually accomplishing anything.
More than 70% of the spending against her was by a super PAC affiliated with AIPAC. Now Bush is running to win her old seat back with support from people like Piker.
The second most expensive congressional primary.
Bonds like that are common bar mitzvah gifts. Just saying. Sell it. Sell it. I don't give a fuck. Sell it.
That's what it took for Israel.
You're fucking in your 50s. A gift you got when you were 13. Like, give me a fucking break.
While an activist like Piker puts the issue of Israel front and center in his campaigning, David Hogg's message is squarely focused on getting dark, special interest money out of politics.
There is no way of taking corporate money and just not being in bed with those special interests, right? And rejecting the influence of AIPAC.
But he too brings up AIPAC.
Let me tell you a story. When I first started working in DC, when I went from working on the outside of politics in the advocacy world.
All right, hold on, chat. This is all of you guys. This is why we're gonna fucking win. Oh, that's not it. Here it is. This is why we're gonna fucking win. Do you see this? Do you see this map? We've got people in almost every fucking state. We go all over the country. We got some judo chatters. This is the donation map from the last hour. All over Wisconsin, all over the country. Amazing. Thank you guys so much.
To then working on the inside. One of the first things that I was told when I got here was do not talk about AIPAC. Do not mention them. Do not think about them. Don't dare go against them.
That is fucking disgusting.
And the thing that was striking to me about that was how eerily similar that sounded to what I remember hearing about the NRA after Parkland, where people said to me, you know, they're too powerful. You guys are just a bunch of kids. You know, what happened at your high school is horrible, but you don't understand. This is the NRA. Nobody's ever going to take them on, but we did, and we won. And we made that organization go from standing for the National Rifle Association to standing for not relevant anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of people watching this, to hear you, a Parkland survivor, talk about AIPAC in the same breath as NRA will be surprising.
It shouldn't be. Both are getting kids killed. And I don't draw a line between whether it's kids in Parkland, kids on any street in America, in any community, or if it's kids in Palestine. It's not okay.
When you first got here to DC and you were told, whatever you do, don't talk about AIPAC, don't come after AIPAC. You know, Big Pharma puts a lot of money into this town, big oil, whatever. Why do you think it was AIPAC you were told to stay quiet about more so than anything else?
There are a few groups that had the winning streak that AIPAC had. That's the reality. What people fear more than anything are people that they perceive to be strong winners that can be decisive in elections.
AIPAC did not make anyone available for an interview for this program. In a statement, AIPAC called Hogg's comments despicable and disgusting. AIPAC said it is proud to support, quote, principled Democrats who share our commitment to a partnership that is integral to America's national security. It also pointed out that many Democrats it supports are winning their primaries.
Where was there?
But what does all of this mean for the midterms?
Moderate Democrats are the only ones who have delivered the House and the White House since Trump came on the scene in 2015.
But in the Trump era, those centrist Democrats have lost the White House twice and only won it once.
True. That's true.
Today is the most popular Israel will be going forward. Tomorrow, Israel will be less popular than it is today. And yesterday, Israel was more popular than it was today.
Oh, God, this is such a line. What a banger. Oh, when we were talking about Hassan making mistakes with his optics, and then he drops something like that, and you're like, oh, the perfect clip. The perfect clip.
It's done.
If we really are going to take on a rising authoritarian right, that is going to be about having as many people as part of that movement as possible, even if that makes you uncomfortable.
John Lovett, John Favreau, and Tommy Vitor all worked for President Barack Obama and now host the hugely popular Pod Save America podcast. They say Democrats need to talk to everyone, including each other.
John, you interviewed Hassan Piker, right?
You heard about
that. You got a lot of shit even for talking to him. Clearly you don't buy into the idea that somebody like Hassan Piker should not be given a platform.
How dare you platform someone with a huge platform?
Right, yeah. Whether you like this or not, Hassan has a lot of people who listen to him. I don't want to start going down the path, even as we head into 2028, where I say, all right, if you're not with me on this issue, I don't want to listen to you. We had interviewed him before, and it wasn't a big deal before. I think it's sort of...
Okay, we already watched these guys rambling and bumbling. We don't need to listen to them again.
On more moderate candidates. The battle for the future of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is not going to play out like it used to.
Money out of politics. Wearing a suit, now copy Hassan again. Nothing about original about my stream. What the fuck are you saying? What the fuck are you saying? What the fuck are you saying? You're saying Hassan owns suits now? Bro, I think you might want to listen. In Western societies, self-harm and any of these kind of things are considered to be an unalloyed bad. That's the environment that we live in. And so I am someone who was raised in Western society. And so I agree with that. And I would never advocate for it. But I did live in Japan for a while as well. And in some East Asian cultures in particular, there was a certain they're very shame-based societies, right? Like there's a lot of like face, honor, shame. And many, for example, in Japan, there is a tradition known as seppuku or harikari, where a person brings so much shame through their actions that the only way to restore their honor and be thought of in a kind of a positive way is to commit kind of this ritualistic self-harm. Now, in our society, that's a monstrous thought. And I agree with that. That's a monstrous thought. But like, you know, just from a comparative politics standpoint or comparative historical standpoint, it is interesting how much cultures can differ. Don't you think so?
Money in your pocket and Medicare for all.
A battle that will help set the stage for the 2028 presidential primaries.
Michiganders need someone who stays focused through the noise and gets the job done.
Issues like affordability, healthcare, corporate influence, and of course, Israel will play a big role.
More than half of House Democrats voted to end U.S. military funding for Israel.
This is a huge jump in numbers.
This is going to continue to be a prescient issue and something that Democrats cannot ignore.
The big question for both wings of the party is whether they can come together after their primaries and back their party's nominees.
I have one simple philosophy. Winning is everything, stupid.
The burden is on the left to show why their toxic politics could work anywhere outside of blue places. And to date, they have literally failed in that test.
This is so when they win, what are they going to say next?
A country that belongs to the working families of America and not just a handful of billionaires.
For too long, we've had cowards in our government that have been pushed around by the government of Israel, that have been pushed around by the super PAC spending. We are in an environment where people are so sick and tired of the status quo. That's the bigger story here.
David Hogg says ultimately he will support all Democratic candidates as they go against Republicans. But there was one person I wasn't so sure about.
Will you endorse the 2028 candidate if they are pro-Israel in a way that you don't like? If you ultimately are about defeating fascism in this country as you describe it, surely shouldn't you get on board with whoever the main candidate is?
Luckily, I don't think I will have to make that calculation at all, because there is 0% chance that whoever the elected Democrat is that wins the primary will be pro-Israel in any way, shape, or form. You'll see.
And that's what I've been saying. And I agree with Hassan 100%. And not only that, I think that we're about to enter into a new era. This is the last gasp of the kind of centrist neoliberal Democrats. The idea that neoliberalism was going to die under Joe Biden was a laughably stupid joke, right? Like that was delusionally stupid. But we are actually entering in that period. And with the victory of Abdul El-Sayed tomorrow and the victory of Francesca Hong next week, we are entering into a period of the final showdown. And some of that is going to mean we're going to need to get rid of some people in the Democratic Party are going to leave. You know, your Destinies, your James Carvilles, your Bill Clintons, like they are probably going to have to leave the party. And that will be addition by subtraction. Wow. What a day. Well, everybody, I'm gonna hop off a little early. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm exhausted. We'll be back tomorrow for Election Day in Michigan. Election Day in Michigan is on the way. We have Ryan Clancy. He's getting close to the goal. Thank you guys, gals, non-binary pals for all the support. Hope you enjoyed kind of the victory lap with Ryan. If you're in Wisconsin, be ready. I'm probably going to set up some sort of like list to sign up. Make sure you join the Discord. Don't forget, we have the newest episode of the Reaction Podcast, which was with 3 Arrows. Make sure you guys are over there. Subscribe to the Reaction Cast everywhere podcasts are sold. The German Right with 3 Arrows. Make sure you go and subscribe. I'm not the biggest fan of that thumbnail, but it is what it is. Go and subscribe. Hit that follow button. And I will see you guys, gals, non-binary pals, tomorrow. Socialism will win. Join the Discord, and I'll see you all very soon. Peace out.